Design doesn't get any more rarefied and bespoke than this. 43 one-off pieces specially commissioned for an auction in New York. The famous face at the sale is the singer Bono, but Apple's design supremo Sir Jony Ive is the man sweating over the nuts and bolts, though you'd be hard-pressed to find anything so lumpy as a nut or a bolt here.
I think what's interesting about these things is they're so purposeful, and there's incredible beauty consequent of just how focused and purposeful they are. And many of the things you don't know, who designed them, you don't know their biography, but you see what they do, and they do it so beautifully.
A private view of the lots before their auction tomorrow for Bono's Product Red charity, which raises money to tackle AIDS, malaria and TB in Africa.
This is a little tune I actually just wrote earlier on it. Strangers in the night, exchanging glances, lovers at first sight.
Don't give up the day job. Oh, hang on. This Steinway's up for grabs. It has some red customising under the bonnet. The U2 frontman has succeeded in coaxing Apple's Chingford-born design guru into the limelight.
For example, the metalwork's nickel-plated instead of the usual brass, so you can see all of the hinges.
Which rather goes against the grain.
I was invited into, the Holy of the Holies, the Apple lab, and Jony was explaining there's very deep security, and if you're going in here, you've got to get ready. And I was thinking, okay, and I thought I was going to see I'm being trusted to see all the new Apple products.
Which I hope you're going to tell me about.
And I walked in,
these guys won't, will they?
No, they had them all covered, which is quite upsetting. And all I could see was just desks everywhere with these kind of grey, kind of dull, sort of metal grey cloths, everything. So as well as being hurt, I was kind of like, that's a very dull grey.
Despite Apple's Trappist approach to previewing its goodies, Ive was willing to discuss this computer. Spoiler alert, it's not out yet.
This is a Mac Pro that's just been launched, and it's like a number of the pieces here. It's made from aluminium, but yeah, we experimented with anodizing it in the red. The product that's actually going to ship from Apple will be in a dark grey. So this is the only one in the world.
What if there's a huge wave of demand and lots of people would like reds? It's just too bad, is it?
There's just one.
Right.
The approach we took here was just to have essentially CPUs, so just the actual, the computing brain, and make that as fast as possible. But the cooling system actually means that it runs very quietly.
Is it inspired by a wine cooler? Because it does look a little like a very sophisticated one, doesn't it?
What I think is more interesting is the inside. So you actually see how it's been configured around this sort of central chimney, and so the air's pulled in through the bottom, and then that's a handle on the top, but it's also where the air exhausts.
Australian Marc Newson, Ive's fellow designer, has co-curated this miscellany, including a one-off Leica camera, which they modelled 500 times before they were happy.
It does sound incredibly indulgent, but you couldn't choose to sort of address a more iconic object of design, this century.
Sure.
Everyone recognises, well, certainly in our world, what that thing is. And they still recognise it even after we've designed it, which is good.
Is there a point at which this fanatical attention to detail shades into something like OCD?
We put that amount of care into something, not for ourselves. It's because we're making something for somebody else. And I think there's tremendous humanity in that. I think as part of the human condition that we sense when people care. And I think actually we probably sense more when people don't care. And the majority of our manufactured environment testifies to people actually not really caring about us.
Space, in fact and fiction, has been a major influence on Apple's lead designer. No wonder he's included a space shuttle in the auction. Not a whole one. This is a window.
And also, I think the shape is just extraordinary as well.
Do you think design and engineering gets the credit it deserves? Does government give it enough attention? Is enough time spent on it at school and university? Are we encouraging people to be good at what you guys are exemplars of?
Well, there is certainly an issue, which is it's an expensive subject to teach, because it requires workshops and requires machinery. So sadly, there's not the. I mean, you know, when we were growing up, and certainly in the UK, UK's had an incredible tradition of design education, and there certainly isn't the same commitment. You don't see as many workshops when you walk around schools now.
Some may feel there's a large element of boys' toys about this show and this auction, and they may think that it might be better and easier if Apple and you didn't just reach into your pockets and make a contribution that way.
You know, Apple are leading right out front. They're the largest corporate donor to the Global Fund, which is the mechanism to get these AIDS drugs to people who don't have them. They're very quiet about it. They're very Apple about it. It's kind of annoying sometimes because they're doing such great work. Again, I just say to you, this is quite a sly political tool, and we can all give and do, and you know, our band U2 is also red, but that's it. The point is the neon. The point is the excitement, the sort of making this a political priority by keeping it in the public discussion.
There's still time to get your bids in, though a Russian oligarch is said to be determined to snap up the old Soyuz spacesuit.